each of our agenda items, we will have a time for public comment. I'm going to call for public comments for items not on the agenda in a minute, but first I'd like to introduce the PAC members. Why don't, because so we don't have to mute and unmute everybody. I'll introduce Vice Chair Patrick Tierney is a member of the Parks Advisory Committee. Fran Pollard is a member of the committee. Michelle Dragony with the Purple Wall is a member of the committee. And I didn't see Rick Barker on yet unless he's on the phone. I will remind you that this meeting is being recorded by Pacific TV, as all our meetings are. Claudia Marshall is on. She's the Parks and Recreation Coordinator for GCSD and the Secretary to the committee. We're joined today by our guest speaker, Tom Conroy from Kikuchi and Kankle, who are working on the Burnham Park design. First item on our agenda is if there are any members of the community who would like to make a comment on something that is not on the agenda. You have 3 minutes for comments. Just raise your hand and I will call on you for comments for anything not on the agenda. Oh, okay, then we'll get going. First item is just fairly quick for PAC members, and that is to approve the meeting minutes from February 3rd, which I sent out on Friday. Any changes or corrections to those?
I don't have any, Nancy.
Okay. Ooh. I don't think it's mine. Okay, then somebody, one of the PAC members, oh gosh, what sound that is. And I'm going to mute you. And I muted the phone. Fran, I don't know if that's your mic, but if you can use the chat at the bottom if you want to send me a message if your mute and unmute doesn't work. So can one of you raise your hand to make a motion to approve minutes?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can. Yeah, I hear you beautifully.
All right. Well, I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay, second. From Pat. All in favor? Just wave at me.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes approved, and we'll move on. We have with us, as I said, Tom Conroy from Kikuchi and Kankle, who has been with us since we first started talking about Burnham Park design in 2018. It's been more than 2 years now. And we've asked him here to review a presentation that he did for the board in mid-June. I'll let you all know that that presentation is available on the granada.ca.gov website on the parks page. There's a picture of the park that Tom will show us. There's a small summary of what went into the park. And then there are links to Kikuchi and Kankle's written report on the park design, to all the slides that Tom is going to show us, and to a video of the board presentation, which was about 45 minutes with some questions and discussion. So Tom, we can, I think, be more brief this time because the more detailed presentation is out there for people to review. But with that, I'll ask you to take over. Pat, Tom needs to share his screen.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, I think I can go ahead and jump on that.
Okay.
Oh, I see. No, I need that to be enabled.
Hang on a second, I'll get that for you.
Sure.
Can you do it now, Tom?
Yep. Here we go. Okay. There we go. And everybody can see the presentation now, I hope.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you, Nancy and Pat and everybody else on the committee. As Nancy said, we had presented a version of this plan, this presentation to the full board last month. And if you tuned into that event, and I know many of you did, much of this is going to be familiar. I've tried to edit out some portions of it, but I'll go through it rather quickly. And you can take as much time as you need to ask questions about it. Just as a reminder to everybody, what most people think of as the Burnham Strip is really a much smaller fraction of the lands than it looks like. Most of the riparian area, the vegetation area to the south is actually within Caltrans or county rights of way. There's about 100 feet of land between the edge of the highway and the GCSD's property that's entirely controlled by Caltrans. And so that red outline is really where we are concentrating our efforts throughout this design phase. And again, just as a reminder, there are numerous overlapping jurisdictions here: the Coastal Commission, the county, Caltrans, Fish and Wildlife, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, potentially the Army Corps of Engineers, probably other people that I'm forgetting. There's a lot of people who have some level of interest in this park outside of just the community members. So the plan that you see before you was developed as a result of the community conversations and board feedback that, as Nancy said, stretched back over 2 years now, and hundreds of comments have been received and reviewed over that time. I think you're all very familiar with these comments as your board was instrumental in doing a lot of the legwork in getting this information out to the public. And I think many of you were at the community workshop event last fall, from which this current plan really found its roots. As I mentioned, this is what we're calling the preliminary landscape plan. And this plan is intended to specifically identify things like park intensity and use areas, to define circulation for people and vehicles, to provide general earthwork and stormwater guidelines, and to provide the community and the decision makers with enough information to commit to the overall concept. And I want to make sure everybody who's here tonight and follows up in the future with this understands that there are innumerable decisions still to be made with this park. Everything from the thickness of the paving to the specific contouring of the berms, from the type of bark mulch to the species and spacing and location of ground covers, the style and the shape of the benches, the number of slides in the playgrounds. These are just, a slight fraction of the decisions that will be made as the park moves closer and closer to development. And your committee's work with the community in developing a consensus on these items, or as near of a consensus as anyone can achieve here on the coast side, is incredibly important to a successful park. And we're looking forward to these conversations as we move forward in the process. But for now, we're really still at the big picture stage. So I just say that as a word of caution to you, that you'll see photos and diagrams as I go through the presentation. And these are really just representations to convey character and feel. These are not specific recommendations or specific specifications for what should go on, what we feel should go on in the park. So as I go through this, we'll break the site down into 3 sections. There's the Burnham Creek riparian zone, which is really the southern third. The central third of the park is the real active recreation zone, and the northern third is a passive recreation. And that passive recreation area is the area that's closest to the existing homes. As you might expect, there are no significant improvements in the southern third. This area is really dense. There's a lot of invasive, some natives, but a lot of invasive species. It is possible that in the future, efforts can be made to improve the hydrology and the vegetation in this area, but it's really outside of our current scope of work. And you can see even clearly here in this slide, most of the area is outside of the GCSD's property entirely. So we're not proposing any limits within any improvements within the limits of vegetation, but we are recommending a trail connection from the intersection and crosswalk at Coronado that extends up to Obispo Road and then into the park. And this trail connection really came out of our conversations with county planning staff and the Connect the Coast team. They have made it very clear that they're really interested in finding a workable trail alignment through this area to accommodate their goal of a complete parallel trail, especially because they've recently approved and designed the trail extension immediately to the south of that Coronado Street intersection that goes down to the northern limits of Half Moon Bay. You can see here in this slide what that trail along the side of the road might look like. It's likely there'd be some sort of bollard or a low fence to help keep the vehicles separate from pedestrians. But this should give you an idea of what that could look like as the path then curves into the park. The middle third of the site is the most active part of the park with concentrated amenities close to the downtown core of El Granada, which should help maintain accessibility for the community at large, but limits disturbance to adjacent residences. There are 4 dominant features in this area. The one is the village green here in red, also the adjacent parking lot. Those are both fairly significant. And a lot of consideration and back and forth went into where the parking lot should go versus where the public lawn should go. It's some of those, one thing we were considering is this a parking lot for residents and park users, or is this a parking lot for folks who are coming up to go to the beach? And there are very strong feelings in the community on those questions. And there were very strong feelings during the community workshop on those questions. And ultimately, the reason we moved the parking lot from its current location, which is in the vicinity of the Village Green right now, is because of the county's riparian setback requirements. They don't allow parking lot paving to be within 50 feet of the limits of riparian vegetation. And once we started marking out those lines in the current configuration of the parking lot, it would really limit our options for both for both pedestrian and vehicular circulation. Which is why in discussion with the county, we located the parking lot where you see on the plan in front of you. In addition to that, the county and the Connect the Coast team let us know that they are actively looking at specific beach parking alternatives, both within Caltrans right-of-way and other county areas. And so ultimately, we felt that consolidating an appropriately sized parking lot close to the active amenities in the park was the best choice in this concept. The other couple areas in this central active core of the park are the redeveloped stormwater management area and this active play zone. And I'll go through these areas in a little bit more detail. The Village Green, the formal entrance to the park, at least the formal pedestrian entrance to the park, is at the end of Avenue Portola at an entry plaza that welcomes visitors and community members to the park. And this is probably a multi-purpose space with opportunities for small groups to meet, potentially with fixed or movable seating. You can see a few images on your screen of comparably sized entry plazas. I don't think any of them have the right feel for this park, but these should give you an idea of the scale that we're looking at. The plaza itself opens up onto a large lawn area, and that a large lawn area has been a pretty consistent request throughout the community input process. The lawn could offer opportunities for events like art shows or small concerts that might overflow from the plaza. And when events are not being held, this is probably a much more passive recreation space for relaxing or informal play. Around the lawn is a trail, a mixed-use trail that allows for different forms of circulation throughout the park. And as the lawn extends towards the drainages to the north and the riparian area to the south, we think we see the grass changing into more of a mix of no-mowed or unmown grasses and perennial or small shrub areas that kind of create a natural transition away from the lawn into the less active areas. Moving over to the parking lot, as I mentioned, this parking lot is considerably smaller than the capacity of the existing gravel lots. This is 33 stalls within the lot. But in addition to the parking lot, we're showing formal street parking for about 37 more stalls in various locations along Obispo Road. All of these parking areas along the street would be protected, so they'd be inset from oncoming traffic with planting buffers, and all of the parking stalls themselves, both on the street and within the parking lot, we would recommend that they be pervious paving. The drainage areas, there are two features that cut across the site. The northern drainage ditch is the image on your left, and the central ditch is on the right. These are both really stormwater conveyances. There's not perennial water running through them. Both of them pass fairly quickly and fairly straight across the site, and then enter culverts and pass under Highway 1, and then ultimately dump into the ocean. The Resource Conservation District has found that the stormwater that gets conveyed through the site is in pretty bad shape. It regularly exceeds acceptable levels of bacteria, heavy metals, and fertilizer runoff. And they prepared a plan a number of years ago for the GCSD that proposed some level of revitalizing of these channels to slow water and increase the filtration of water. So ultimately, the water that enters the ocean is considerably better than the water that enters these ditches. The red lines you see here on the map are the location of the current ditches and where they would be relocated to. In what you see here, the northern ditch where it's been moved is about 3 times its current length. The central ditch is about twice its current length. And these wouldn't be those deep incised carved out channels that you see if you're out on the site right now. These would be wider, rounded bottom channels that would really help slow stormwater. They'd be well planted to help filter water and ultimately allow more water to percolate into the site rather than just pass through the ditches on the way to the ocean. This is one example. I think this is a pretty extreme example of a urban stream revitalization project. This is in Denver. I don't think we would achieve something quite as dramatic as this out on the Strip. But at the other end of the spectrum is this picture. It's not a great picture, and I apologize for that. This is the Temescal Creek drainage in Oakland. During the winter, that channel has water in it, and it kind of snakes back and forth. But in the summer months, it dries out. It's planted, and it's a pretty attractive space year round. Relocating these ditches significantly improves the flow of amenity spaces across the park, which allows for more natural connections. So you don't have these carved lines that artificially divide the park, but instead all these features flow together a little bit better. You can see in the center of your screen, the path between the two drainages could probably be a boardwalk to allow for more comfortable crossing during extreme wet weather. It might even have a little bump out overlook deck for seating or interpretive signage. Outside of those ditches, there are other significant improvements in stormwater management. These pictures I showed earlier when I was talking about the street parking, these would be biotreatment planters that accept runoff from the road, Obispo Road, or the adjacent sidewalks and provide a first level of filtration. There are great examples of these outside of the new Half Moon Bay Library right now. If you want to see what successful versions of these look like, here it is. We're in early July, and they're gorgeous right now. They're flowering and really dense. So it's worth taking a look. This area right here that is kind of the head of these two of the relocated ditches could be a rain garden, which provides a second level of filtration. The biotreatment planters along the road would drain into this area, which would provide another level of filtration before the water entered the relocated ditches too. Both of these areas, both the rain garden and the biotreatment areas, are attractive year round, and are really functional improvements to the stormwater across the site. Let me jump ahead to the active play areas. These are the real fun areas of the site. North of the parking lot, the existing skate ramp has been relocated alongside a new ribbon track for younger skaters and scooters. And you can see the top left is the existing skate ramp. But on the bottom right, you can see a couple of different alternatives for what that skate and scoot ribbon track could be. Both of these features were among the top requests from the community throughout the public meetings, and consolidating them together and next to the other active improvements allows parents with children of various ages to not have to split their supervision. Also high on the list of community requests is a playground, and this is the area where we're proposing for an expansive natural playground. This would have separate areas for young kids from like 2 to 5, as well as for bigger kids in that 5 to 12 range. You can see in these pictures examples of natural playgrounds, a lot of natural materials. There's wood members, large logs, boulders and stumps and rope. All things that would better fit the Burnham Park site than colorful metal and plastic that you might see in a neighborhood park. Let's see, next to the playground, we have a moderately sized play lawn. This would be an active space that would have runoff, overflow from the play structures and the adjacent picnic area. This is that picnic area here. The picnic area really serves as the hub to all of these spaces, with the play lawn on one side, the play structures on the other, a basketball court on the other side, and all very close to the new restroom facility here that kind of anchors the parking lot. We imagine this is probably a prefab unit, like a prefab drop-in unit. Prefab facilities like these have numerous options, including external or internal showers, which was also high on the list of desired community elements. Finally, moving on to the northern section of the park. Now, compared to the center of the site, this is a much more pastoral and passive area. The topography is gently rolling. There's large mass plantings. We see probably a mix of grasses and native species with potential pockets of specialty plantings and garden areas for additional interest as you walk or jog or bike through. Weaving around and sometimes, in some cases, through some of these berms and landforms are pathways. The perimeter path is a 10-foot wide, is about 10 feet wide to accommodate both bike and pedestrian users, and should probably be a durable, pervious material like permeable concrete. The interior pathways should be narrower, maybe 4 to 5 feet in width, and could be decomposed granite. And these various path widths are designed to accommodate a broad mix of park users. Now, carved out of the mounds are several small picnic areas, each with a picnic table and potentially a barbecue. You can see examples here. Retaining the berms where we're kind of carving into them, we could have low gabion walls, which are a relatively low cost, more natural alternative to wood or concrete retaining walls. These areas, these starred areas, are some of the locations where we have proposed fitness stations. These are small exercise facilities, again, using similar natural materials as we see in the play structure. And they are regaining popularity in the current COVID environment where nobody can go to their gym to work out. Finally, should a partnership with the county prove fruitful, there is opportunity to connect this trail with a future continuation of the parallel trail to the north, all the way up to the harbor. Okay, so next steps. All of the feedback that we've received in our meetings with the county, public comments from our board meetings and from the Parks Advisory Committee, all of that will be incorporated into a final master plan for board approval later this summer. And when the board approves the plan, that's when work can proceed on preparing for the technical and environmental documents that are required for the coastal development permit, which is the submittal to the county. But that also means that we can move forward on the schematic design. So getting back into that more granular detail on the materials and finishes and the exact numbers of benches and where they go, and things that the folks who are going to be using this park are really most are going to interact with on a regular basis. And with that, that's my abbreviated presentation. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Tom.
I'll stop my screen share for right now.
I'll remind folks, remember on the PAC members that our next agenda item will be collecting feedback from each of you to report back to the board. So I'm going to open up now for both questions for clarification while we've got Tom with us, and to members of the public who've joined for comment. If you have a question or want to make a comment, please open the participants box. You can find the participants icon at the bottom of your screen if you scroll down there. And in that box in the lower left side, you should see a raise hand. And if you click on that, I'll unmute you so you can comment or ask a question. I'm going to unmute Chris. Chris, you might need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi there. Thanks for the opportunity to respond to this plan again. I'm a resident of Granada. I live across from the Strip, and I know you guys have put a lot of work into this, and it's a grand plan for what it is, but it's woefully lacking in a lot of other ways. I don't understand Mr. Conroy's characterization of the northern area as passive when he described trails and picnic areas and workout stations and those kinds of things. He described it as having gently rolling topography with large, massive plantings, and none of that is characteristic of the coastal terrace prairie that once existed there, where the Burnham Strip is now. They don't belong there, and I think that it's more important if you to show that you're working with the local environment, not replacing it wholesale. It's analogous to if you're going to build a building in a neighborhood, you try to work with the vernacular of the architecture that's already there. Coastal terrace prairie is an imperiled ecosystem on the coast here, something that we should all value very much. We should be striving to restore. In fact, the GCSD and the RCD have a plan to do that. They just haven't shown either the financial commitment or the will to follow through with it. It's a plan that Barbara sent to me and asked for me to my professional or my professional opinion based on my experience as an ecologist, which I did provide her with quite a bit of input, but I never heard back from her. I think that the plan also condemns the wildlife that use the strip currently to non-existence. There's red-tailed hawks that are here every year hunting right there on that grassland. There's great blue herons that also hunt there. There's all kinds of other birds and wildlife that come through there. And the plan also would deny our ability, many of my neighbors, the enjoyment of the natural features as they are, and instead replace it with this contrived and artificial vision of nature. I think that it's a vision that's sterile, it's useless for wildlife, except the raccoons that are going to be foraging in the garbage of the visitors that will come and leave it behind for us to clean up. I think that again, the plan is just, especially in the northern areas, is not following through with what the GCSD has I think already committed to in terms of its existing plan. I know it's a weed lot now. It's a weed lot because of the way in which the RCD routinely mows it. It perpetuates the weeds that are there. It doesn't do anything to restore the land to what it could be. I think that you've thrown away any opportunities and commitment to follow through with that plan, and instead you're just replacing it with something that's basically built environment. It ignores one of the most important values of the site, which is viewshed. It's a valid and valuable passive recreational resource, is just being able to look across an empty lot at the ocean, and to be able to do that every day and to be rejuvenated by that and not have to look at a contrived and built environment. I'm really disappointed that no comments that support basically leave it as it is. It really is fine the way it is. I'm disappointed that at least a portion of the plan area hasn't been supported or incorporated into the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for your comments. And please do also write in. I'll go over how to submit comments in just a moment. Lenny, you may need to unmute yourself as well.
I did. Hi, everybody. Thank you. I'm Lenny, El Granada resident. Thanks for all your work on this plan. It is very grandiose. I really appreciate everyone's efforts. And when I first set out to save this strip, so to speak, 27 years ago, the prototype for this land was just a large green space, which lends itself to, the nature as well as the public doing pretty much playing on it, doing what they want to do, running across, flying kites, that sort of thing. It was the Marina Green was the prototype, and we set out and worked on it for 27 years. And I appreciate such things as skate ramps and pump tracks and that sort in their proper place. And I know to a skate ramper, to a skateboarder, any place is a good place to skateboard. And I have lots of skateboarders in my family. But the Burnham Strip is an integral part of the Burnham Plan. It's a historic plan. And it was meant to be a buffer zone between the ocean and the community. And all these streets that go down to the strip are supposed to have a view that is preserved and as Burnham wanted it to be. And he said that anything that interferes with he didn't say, I say, and so does Barbara Vanderwerf say, who wrote the book, A Synonym for Paradise, Granada, A Synonym for Paradise. As a matter of fact, I spoke with her today. I wish she was here. But she was, saying yes, because I said, Barbara, I should have had a scenic preservation easement. I should have worked on that, for all those years, because now the scene is, the times have changed, and perhaps some people don't value the natural expanse, the elegance of a green space, the calming effect, the beauty, and so forth. And we do need exercise and all that, but just visit the Marina Green in San Francisco. And I know it's a much larger city and all that, but no one can really change what I feel. That this needs to be, I think, a simpler plan. It needs to be simplified. And I really do, Tom, appreciate the work that you've all done. It doesn't seem as if we need a lot of crisscross pathways, although it does from the sky especially, it might look really cool. But I don't really understand the use of that space. If I had my way, I would take the parking lot and the skate ramp and move that and keep it where it's at, and take out a lot of the non-natives to open that up. And I would not put the Granada Green in a tiny space there. I'm not sure how big that is, Tom. That space is not maybe even an acre, but the whole thing is gonna attract a lot of people. And I think that's a really tiny area right there. So I was really hoping for the Granada Green, for the village green, as you call it, to be spaced on the other side of the riparian, which, and for the skate rampers and skate scooters to have their own area, because that's really high intense use. And if you want to look down an expanse and preserve this beautiful sweeping view, as Barbara Vanderwerf always said, she wrote Granada, I told you, a synonym for paradise. And she says, this is a no-brainer to preserve this view corridor. I said, Barbara, I'm so sorry I didn't work on that part of it. Now I just lie awake at night, but I'm glad for the skate rampers and all those people, But right smack dab in the middle of the Burnham Strip, I feel is really inappropriate. And we all are entitled to our own opinions. I respect your opinion. If you think it should be the primary central thing, the parking lot and the skate ramp, it's right in the middle. And if you think that's great, that's your opinion, but I'm just saying I really would rather have it stay where it is. And I heard you that you can't park as many cars there. So what I would do is keep that skate ramp where it's at, move it over so that you can still have an open view from the post office. Move it over. Take those non-native things out and move the skate ramp over and give the skaters their own space there where they have already. They love that space. And then move the village green on beyond to contiguous with the what you call passive open space now. And I was really kind of concerned about the fact that it didn't really seem that I do appreciate the green, but I don't think we need to spend so much money on all those paths and the upkeep of them. I really like the contour as it is of the space. I don't think we should be contriving new contours. I mean, maybe inside a city or something, it would be appropriate, but I'm happy with having it a big, long, flat green space. So people, and I wouldn't even mind, you know, if people played lacrosse and so forth, but as it is, we can't play anything. There's no volleyball court there either, but anyway, you can't have everything. I realize this is the preliminary plan, and I'm hoping that the skateboarders, the skate people, will be open to finding a better spot rather than right smack dab in the middle of the Burnham Strip, because it just breaks my heart to see that. I'm happy they're happy, but I really would like to look down and not see a lot of people flying through the air all the time. God bless everybody. And the wildlife that was mentioned by Chris is really something that most people, probably the Grenadians, don't appreciate so much because they're not on the front here. It's just incredible. Come up to my deck sometime and you get an air show all the time from the beautiful, and the herons land right on the strip all the time and catch the gophers. They'll help us preserve the land. So I'm kind of going on, but the barbecue, one more thing. Well, there's more, but thank you for letting me go on and on. The barbecues are not really 2020 items, I don't think, because they emit quite a bit of greenhouse gas. One barbecue, I was reading up on barbecuing, and it was saying that a barbecue will emit to the tune of a 90-mile car journey, one barbecue, and or 800 air balloons full of greenhouse gas. So I don't really think it's a good idea. I think if we don't have barbecues there, then the surrounding businesses will make money selling their good barbecues or foods, whatever they have to offer, and they will come up and probably offer more to the public when we get the park. So I think that having the barbecues is not really a good idea to show children, you know, that we're respectful of the environment. It's really, really, really bad for the environment to barbecue, even though I love barbecue. The elegance is what I'm after too. I mean, when you get older, no, I've always loved elegance and elegant green. Even when I was a San Franciscan, I loved that marina green. Not so many trails, just a perimeter trail perhaps, and maybe some crisscross trails through all these little things. If you must put them in the middle section of the Burnham Strip, please don't put them up into this passive section, because right now it's as passive as, it's more passive than any. And I appreciate that. But the community, I don't think really wants to be, remember the air from the ocean goes right up onto the community. So when you have the barbecues, it's also going to be continually aerating, or the aromas from the various barbecues. My mouth will be watering all the time. No, please consider that. And we should, I believe in 2020, be greener. We should respect the natural. We don't have much. They're just not making any more open space, especially next to the ocean. So we could do well with a lot less design on that. And don't get me wrong, Tom, I think you guys did a beautiful job, but for this spot, well, you heard, I think it should just be plainer and more elegant and without really heavy activity in everyone's sight. I think it should be like moved over to their own area. And I wouldn't mind more parking if you have to. If you can't park that much on what you have designed as the village green right now, if there's not enough room presently for enough parking, if you kept the skate park, then just make more parking on the other side of it or anywhere, but just leave the skate ramp and all the children and kids, teens, and everybody else who want to really party and have a great time skateboarding. Just have them do it in their own area there. And anyway, thank you. I have a lot more stuff, but thanks for allowing me to ramble.
I'm not, not being tight on time since we don't have so many people, but thank you, Lenny. And I'm
Yes.
a minute where you can find the email address. I just want to check. We've got a few more people on and one person on the phone. I don't know your name, but because I don't think you can raise your hand, I'm just unmuting you to see if you have any comments.
Nancy, is this time where PAC members can speak up, or is this after public comments?
PAC members, let me just show one thing, Pat, and then I'll come to PAC members.
Okay.
Share my screen to show, find it. Ah, there it is. Okay. I just want to show this website for those who haven't commented and those who have. The Granada.ca.gov website on the Parks and Recreation page has a picture of the plan and the overview. As I said earlier, it has the K&K report for the park, Tom's slides, and a video of Tom's presentation to the board from a couple weeks ago. It also has down here, we're going to be asking all summer the community to provide comments. This is the email address. You can click it right from the website here to provide your comments directly. We will be compiling all the comments verbatim, as we always do, and providing a summary. If you'd like to see the previous inputs to the park that Tom mentioned, we have the report here from our June 16th, 2018 event on the Strip, from the public workshop that we had last October, and the community survey. The first section was focused on Burnham Park. All the raw data and commentary is there. And that's all the data that went to K&K. So I just wanted to show you that. I'll come back and I don't see any other hands raised. So Pat, let's open up for PAC. PAC members, I'm not going to, this is really moving on to the next agenda item, which is collect PAC feedback to the board. I'm not going to drive for consensus. I'm just, we've got diverse members and diverse views on the Parks Advisory Committee. So I'm just going to collect your views as best I can and report all the different views to the board at the next board meeting. So Pat, if you want to go ahead.
Sure, thank you. For a community that lacks any community park whatsoever, I think this is a good start for a multi-purpose facility that satisfies a wide variety of the community needs and wishes. The last workshops that were held at Granada Elementary, certainly there was in excess of 50, 60 people there, and the majority of folks wanted to see things besides everything remaining the same as it is. A lot of what was recommended was more active recreation sites than what the current plan offers. So I find that the current plan is a pretty good compromise. There's a section that is the Marina Green model of irrigated mowed grasslands that allow wide variety of activities. And they will be throwing frisbees, and they will be doing lots of other things that people love to do in parks. And then in the center is the more active recreation. It is near the parking lot, but one of the nice things that I see about the parking lot location is that it moves it away from Surfers Beach. So it clearly, to me, says this is not Surfer Beach parking, although it may become that. This is the community's park, and people with disabilities or have a need to drive can find a place to park there. And parking along the street is another option. I would like to see traffic calming on Obispo that would slow down or modify the speed of people racing to get around Highway 1 backups. So I'm glad to see restrooms, absolutely need restrooms. And I only saw one court, one basketball court. That was the only thing that was a ball facility. Now that's a windy site, so I'm not sure that a lot of other things would be real appropriate, but just a single half court, not much for most community parks. The playground, although I'm supportive of a naturescape, I'm more interested in seeing it ADA accessible. In this day and age, without having a playground 100% ADA accessible, Americans with Disabilities Act accessible, it just can't pass muster. It just will get additional reviews as it goes up the chain, and the county and everybody else will stall it unless we have full ADA compliance on the playground. I also support the exterior trails that are hardened surface for people with wheelchairs. There are certainly people with wheelchairs in this community, and they deserve a place that they can have access to. So the playground has to be wheelchair and ADA accessible. The play structures on the playground have to be ADA accessible. I think that's the bottom line. In terms of the north end of the park, there really isn't much that you're proposing, in my view anyway, that would impact the view shed. That would be much above what is there currently. The current lot and area there is, as was mentioned, a weed patch, former fields that have very little natural value, at least from a plant perspective at this point in time. In addition to that, there are the district tanks underneath the ground that limit what can be done above the ground. So I think the northern end of things does a pretty good job of balancing maintaining a reasonable view shed for people who live nearby and providing a healthy activity that is walking or wheelchairing or bicycling for kids. I think that, we have that right now on the coastal trail that blocks, quote unquote, blocks the view from the houses of the ocean already. So it isn't like this is a new thing that is going to be popping up, in my opinion. I'm wondering what will be preventing people from walking directly across and going to Highway 1 and crossing, as they dangerously do now, Highway 1. So I don't know if there'll be design features in the park that will limit, prohibit, discourage people from making social trails so that they take the fastest shortcut to get to Highway 1 to get to Surfer Beach. The skate park, if you want to start a war in El Granada, a good thing to do would be to say you have to take out the skate park, the skate ramp.
No, I don't think anybody dared say that. Yeah,
there's so much support that it would just blow up. The ribbon track is substituting for a skate park. If you think of a skate park like Half Moon Bay Skate Park or Pacifica Skate Park, that is where it's undergrad, it's below grade, and there's a bowl there that kids can skate on. I'm not sure that the ribbon track is a substitute for that. Maybe the ribbon track and a skate park and a skate ramp would be appropriate there. There's certainly some areas, Tom, I don't remember, it was north of the ballpark, the basketball court, that was in between two trails. That was, I think you called it the rain, what'd you call it, John? The rain garden.
Rain garden.
And, you know, that could possibly be made into a place where the wave track could be, and where the wave track is proposed right now, maybe a skate park. That is the bowl, not a big, huge thing, but a skate park bowl like they have in Half Moon Bay and almost every city in the coast of California of any size. Let me think here one more second. I think those are most of my comments. Again, I think it preserves the view shed overwhelmingly on the northern part, which is closest to homes, and we want to be sensitive to people who live near the proposed facility. But that can't be the only consideration. So I think it's a reasonable project.
Okay, thanks, Pat. I'm going to go around the horn to PAC members. Fran.
Yeah, Nancy, real quick, do you want me, I mean, as things are brought up, I'm happy to address or provide insight. I didn't want to interrupt Pat, but I don't want to, if there's, I couldn't tell if he was asking questions or just getting things out there. So there's something that I think I can address. If
certainly questions. I certainly add questions in there. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom, if there are things you can address from there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple, your question about the half court basketball, as well as the ribbon, skate and scoot ribbon, those were, those really came from the specific direction that we were provided by the board. The board approved a half court basketball. I think if the community wanted a full court basketball court, we can make it work out there. But that was specific direction provided by the board.
I would add, Tom, that those were both recommended to the board by PAC.
Okay.
We did our consolidated feedback last November.
Okay.
PAC went for a ribbon track, as I think they said, to build little kids' muscles, and then they can graduate to the ramp or the pump track in Quarry Park.
I think, yeah, and there was my second comment on, you know, that using a larger, more developed skate park like what you referred to, the one you referred to in Half Moon Bay, or even up north in Pacifica, as opposed to a ribbon track. My understanding was that the board really wanted to provide different activities for different ages, because if you go to the Half Moon Bay skate park, you're not going to see a lot of high school kids with their 6 and 7 year old little brothers right there. There are very specific times that those little kids can get an opportunity to skate at that park. Otherwise, they're just going to get rolled by the bigger kids. And I think that's what the board wanted, was some place that the younger kids had an opportunity to work up to the skate park. And just the other thing that I wanted to mention, and I didn't hit it in this presentation, and I don't think I did either when we presented to the board. But what's not shown on this plan, because it would be really tiny, but we do anticipate there being a fence, like a split rail fence or something similar along the right-of-way line between the GCSD's property and the Caltrans property. The county, in our conversations with the county, they were very supportive of that because they, like you noted, want to remove the opportunity for people to cross willy-nilly across the road like they do now. Now, is a split rail fence really going to prevent somebody who's determined to hop over and cross the road? No, but hopefully it will encourage some people to follow the trail all the way to the crosswalk at Coronado. And in addition to the sign, or, I'm sorry, in addition to this, the fence, some level of signage also directing people to safe crossing is really what developed in our conversations with the county. So,
Thank you.
hope that's helpful.
Fran, I'm going to come to you for comments.
Me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
If you get just a little closer to your screen, I think we could hear you better.
Oh, here. Let's see. How do we do that? A little bit. Okay. Can you hear me? All
Yeah,
right.
that's better.
All right. First, I'm Fran Pollard, and I've been working on saving this Burnham Strip for going on 50 years. I've been here, and almost all that time I joined our planning group with the county planning group 50 years ago almost. And we adopted the plan, and part of it was to save the Burnham Strip for a park, for open space. And it was adopted by the Board of Supervisors in 1978. And it saved the Burnham Strip there. And so we're just continuing. And I want to thank K&K for all their work and a very interesting plan. The main thing that we worked on for decades was to preserve the Burnham Strip. And we actually drew up plans almost 15 years ago to make it a park. And we had two main things in mind: lots of green, open space for play, picnicking, etc., that you do on in a park, and view protection, especially the Half Moon Bay view to the south, and of course the ocean views. And by the Half Moon Bay view, I'm talking about when you're walking down Obispo Road or driving, you can see that whole Half Moon Bay view. And that would be a shame to lose that with anything. Okay, so then another point, I really like the Village Green, the open, quiet area across from Portola and the town center, which we talked about in the past. We just want a lot more of that. And I think you can create a lot more of that same thing at the north end of the park. More open and green space at the north end to play, picnic, etc., and less planting and less paths, especially the crisscrossing paths that break up the green. But we do want two separate paths for bikes, one for bikes and one for walking, and the park horse that we hope will be included, which could follow and these should follow the border or the edge of the parcel rather than breaking it up and going all through the inland part. Okay, then another point, I think you should do the crisscrossing paths in the active area, separating each activity as appropriate. That seems logical, but I don't think basketball or other ball sports should be in that area due to kids can easily throw the ball or kick the ball out on the highway very dangerous. And I think we can put the basketball either behind the El Granada pump station, or the fire station, if we ever get that for a community center. It can be played indoors, that whole big area where the fire trucks are. Okay, another point, I'm wondering if the creeks and stormwater drainage or well water, I think there's a well on this property, and if that could be used to keep the area green longer, so, we don't have to water, and keep it green longer in the spring. And if everything dies, as it does every year, keep it mowed like the county mows Marada Surf east and west. West Marada Surf was much like Burnham Strip until the county mowed everything in sight except one or two little trees that are left there. So I think we could do the same thing, and I'm going to request the board to agendize that on their next agenda and talk about whether we could start mowing now so that people can, well, I guess we'll have to wait till after the pandemic is over because the parks are closed. But I think that would be a good idea to be able to play out there until we finally get around to building any of this stuff. In the tot lot area, I would add swings for babies and for older kids. I didn't see any swings included. And I want you to see that how do I get this on? Oh.
I can see that.
Where do I go?
Over this way to your right.
I don't know. I can't figure this out.
There it is. That's good, Fran.
Okay. This was our flyer for when we worked to turn the Granada Sanitary District into a community services district for parks. Lenny, who spoke earlier, Lenny and I were the co-chairs on this organization. And it was on the ballot, and it got voted in to create the Granada Community Services District. And so the swing that's in this picture was our logo. And we have to have swings. Those are the most popular thing for the little ones and older kids. And I've even seen adults go on the swings over here in Quarry Park. And okay, let's see. And I'm wondering if the skate ramp could be recessed in the ground so it doesn't detract from the view, especially, again, the Half Moon Bay view, or maybe move to a less distracting area. We need to study that and discuss that. And I saw there was a thing about maybe planting more trees, and I don't think, no, that trees are view blocking, and we have enough trees in El Granada, I think. The other thing, we know we need restrooms, but I don't think we need showers, which will attract more homeless people. People have done without showers now for years now. And if they really want to shower, they'll shower at the beach. That's the people that need showers. You don't need a shower if you're just playing in the park here. And if it's a community park, most of the people, they go home and shower. They don't need it. And again, don't want to block the views. So we don't want the restroom blocking the view. So I'm hoping it's not in the area that's chosen, but if it is, maybe that we could discuss moving that to a less obstructive view site. And one last thing, it occurred to me that if we put in restrooms, showers, and barbecues, the homeless will have it made. All the necessities are there for them. So I think we don't want showers or barbecues in the community park. And that's my say. And thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Fran. I'm going to go to Michelle.
Nancy, could I just jump in and clarify?
Yeah,
I apologize if somewhere along the way I misspoke and suggested trees are planted. We're not proposing any mass plantings of trees or any large vegetation of any kind. We anticipate the overwhelming majority of vegetation used in the park will be native plants, native grasses, or small shrubs. Definitely no large trees.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Michelle, I don't know if you're still, I think you're still there. You need to unmute yourself, I think.
I'm unmuting.
There you go.
So I think this plan is right in the middle of where we were at El Granada School when we had 5 groups talking, and we had the passive people on one side, we had Brian Overfelt on the other side, you know, the active people. This plan is right in the middle. It gives a little bit of something to everybody. And that's what our job is to do as the Parks and Recs Committee, is to give a little bit of something to everybody and not to serve any one interest. There's no view obstruction. That skate ramp is below grade when you look at it from, you know, the hardware store. You don't really see it. You see the ocean. The showers, the way surfers work, and I was a water person, had a kid, is you go back to the truck and you have, you know, water that you pour on yourself. But with the traffic the way it is today, if you're going to sit in your wetsuit for 30 minutes to get back home, you're going to be fried. The saline is just going to burn your skin. People like to rinse off before they go home, and you can make it more convenient for them to do that. In terms of homelessness, I think it's outrageous to think, absolutely outrageous to think that we shouldn't provide showers for the homeless people.
Oh,
That is something we should be doing. I mean, this is not like they're lazy. These are people that are on their very, very back foot, and we're only going to get more people like that after COVID. Providing a shower and cleaning it up is not that big a deal. They're not going to live there because we're not going to let them. That's one thing that we can control. But there's a whole lot less homeless people right now. And I know that. Why? Because I walk and I bike and I don't own a car. So I can see the fluctuation of homeless people. A lot of them have left. And you got to have showers for the surfers. It's just ridiculous. We're a surf community. And people from not here are going to end up coming back here, and they're not going to shower on that side because their cars are parked over here. Swings. Didn't think about that. I love swings. We should absolutely have swings. And I wouldn't mind to have at least 1 or 2 adult swings. I think that'd be good too. But other than that, I think the plan is right in the middle of what everybody wanted at the meetings that I went to. And it gives a little bit of something to the little kids. It gives a little something to the skaters. And I don't think you have to give them any more than that skate ramp. I mean, they're fine with what it is right now. I mean, it's not even actually being skated as much as I would have thought right now with COVID. But I think there's that COVID thing that's going on as well. So anyway, I think it's a great plan.
All right, thanks, Michelle. I'll go last so I can exercise my bits in writing. Go
Can I
ahead.
say something?
Yeah. Go
Okay. About the showers. Yeah, I think you're just going to have too much attraction, not just homeless, but transients and visitors coming here. The Harbor District is planning to build the showers on the beach side. The parking lot, as it was stated, is for the community park, not for the surfers. So they're going to be parking. And I think I heard the county say they're looking into parking on the west side and providing parking. So for beachgoers. So that's where they'll be at the beach. Yes, it's the beachgoers that need to shower or clean up a little bit. So that'll be on the side. We don't need to provide that in the community park.
I'll add, Fran, that when the board discussed this, they were divided. So I think the direction to K&K was to keep the option open. You know, you can build for the option being open, but they wanted to wait and see, because the Harbor District and City are going to build the restroom on the beach side with showers, whether that would meet the need, and kind of leave open whether those get added or not, depending on the need. So I think the direction was to build in, but I think I'm going to put in both sides of feedback because we have diverse views, and I'm going to give both views to the board. My view is probably more similar to Michelle's. I keep going back to, and I think this comes from my employee survey background. When you ask people for their view and say you want their view and you're going to use it, then you use it. So I've gone back to and looked over all the feedback from the 3 different inputs that we got from the community. And of the first session informed the list of items that we put in the survey. And of the 25 things we put in the survey, 20 of them are incorporated into the plan. And actually I think everything that PAC recommended post the October workshop to be in the plan is there, except the fenced dog park, which did get a good discussion at the board, but they elected not to include that. It was the only thing on our list that they elected not to include. So I agree that in a community that is fairly diverse, we have almost 1,000 kids under 18 in our community. We have about 40% of the community is over 55. And then we have, all the people in the middle. We, I think, are looking after the active people, the walkers, the bicyclers, the kids who don't have a place to skate, which is a big culture thing here. And I kind of liked what I wish Rick and Paul were here. Paul's traveling, and I thought Rick was going to be here. But they're both working on the pump track in Quarry Park. And they could see these gradations, as Tom mentioned, from the ribbon track for little kids that's protected. And you graduate from there to where you can go as a big kid and kind of on your own, either to Quarry Park to the pump track or bicycle down that new parallel trail to Half Moon Bay to the skate park. So in our community, which is just a little less than half the size of Half Moon Bay, I did think it was something for everybody park. I'm agnostic on exactly where things are placed. And so we will collect and pass along all of that feedback. I understand why the active part is in the middle. And if we do end up buying if the district ends up buying the fire station, which is right across the street from that active area, there's some synergy to me between the active community center and the active center of the park. But other than that, I don't really have a strong view. I thought Fran's idea to potentially submerge the escape park and potentially even the restrooms so that they have a lower profile in your field of view was an interesting idea to explore. And so I will kind of leave it at that. I think it does really reflect well all the community input that we got, and that's really where my heart is. Claudia, you were with us for at least the last 2. I just want to check if you have anything you'd like to add. I mean, the last 2 events, I didn't finish my sentence, the survey and the workshop.
Oh, yeah, I have to totally agree with Michelle that we heard so much of from the different aspects, different demographics within the community that I think, this plan really allows for something for everyone, just like you said, Nancy, that, I wish it were 3 times bigger so we could have a village green that was 3 times bigger. But I do love Fran's comment about, let's see if we can't submerge the skate ramp. And I think that would be a great addition to the overall plan. And I'm very hopeful also that we can, at some point, buy the old firehouse and turn it into an indoor community center. So that's my input. Thank you.
Okay.
Just on the point of submerging, anytime you submerge something, now you've got drainage issues and
Yeah,
dewatering.
there's a water table issue I know that has to be explored.
Right. Just
Yeah.
for a note. But I do like the idea of getting it lower.
Yeah. Yeah, without making it less exciting. Okay. Well, I think that took care of our feedback agenda item. And
Lenny has a question, Nancy.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lenny.
Hi, thank you, Lenny L. Granada. I was thinking about the lighting on this, and I was really concerned because I'm hoping that they don't, light it up like with lots of stadium lights and all that, because it obscures the moonlight on the water and all the natural beauty that we have now will be again diminished, one more time. But I know we have to have lighting so people are safe and all this, but hopefully if there is any lighting, it must be directed downward, not out towards the community. I've had countless lights right in my front room from the RV lot. They have to have these tall stadium lights. Why? I don't know. They could have some elegant lighting that just goes down onto the ground. That's what really nice places have, that kind of thing, not those loud glaring stadium lights all over. So
Those lights even lit up my house up the hill. Tom, have you guys gotten any direction on lighting?
Yes.
Yeah, I can tell you in over 2 years of working on this park, we have never discussed lighting the park at night, not once. I think, ultimately, the GCSD has the luxury in developing this park in that they can determine what the park hours will be. And if the park hours are sunrise to sunset every day of the year, that means that after sunset activity is not supported in the park. And if that's the case, then we don't need to light anything.
that would be good. Yeah, there's activity in the RV lot after hours though, but that's why they have all those. Anyway, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lenny.
I don't, just real quick, I don't want to see that park lighted either. If anything, at the most, there would be trail lighting that is a foot off the ground and facing downward on a limited number of areas there. But that would be the most I'd propose. Certainly not lighting in the parking lot or anything like that.
Yeah, I would object as well.
Yeah, I don't think there should be any lighting at 1 foot, 6 foot, and 6 inches. No, I just don't think there should be any lighting at all. It should be dark.
Okay.
Thank you.
We all agree on that.
Okay. That's the one consensus item I'm adding to the note.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we can probably let you go. We're going to talk about our outreach stuff now and a very quick update on Quarry Park. So we've probably got another 15 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes if
Thank you, Tom.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks very much, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
I'm going to share my screen again in a minute. But at the last board meeting, one of the reasons why we scheduled this meeting was I was asked to talk with PAC about ideas for community outreach now on the preliminary plan and how to get some feedback. The board is thinking of a special meeting, Parks meeting in mid to late August to look at that collective feedback. And the challenge of not being able to do any gatherings of lots of people in one place. At the meeting, I suggested putting up a billboard like the fire station has out there on the corner of Coronado and Obispo. And post-meeting, Claudia and Barbara Dye and I met, I think along with Julia, to start to progress that idea, which will actually take some permitting and no, it doesn't require a permit. We found it doesn't require a permit because it's temporary, but it's going to take a little more time. So we agreed to go with sending a postcard, large postcard, like 6 by 12, with a good picture. I'll show it to you. Out to the 2,000 households, similar to, same list we used, except updated for the survey, and direct them to the park's website to review more detail and to use that email address I showed you to send us comments. I'm going to show you the front of the postcard. Looks like this. Tom put this together for us. So it names the things. Actually, Claudia, you was able to, I think this was your idea, to put it over the satellite view so people can picture where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Ask them for feedback and see more detail and leave your comments or email your comments if you don't want to go to the website. Burnham@granada.ca.gov. We set up a special email address. And on the back of the postcard, this is my artwork, which Marty will do a much better job of, but I just mocked this up quickly so you could see it. It would have just a little summary of some of the key things that we heard about: parking lots, environments, cost, community driven, where to put your comments on the back. So this, Marty is doing the design, graphic design as we speak, I think.
Yeah. If I may intercept for a second here, Marty has everything that she needs as of this afternoon. And we've got a couple of quotes from printers to include the mailing, and we should be able to get a draft of it for approval Wednesday morning.
So our mailing could probably most likely be early next week.
Or maybe even Friday.
Maybe even by end of the week. Great.
Yeah.
So that will go out to all homes, and that could start our feedback rolling in. I think, every week or 10 days, we'll re-socialize it. We'll socialize it on Nextdoor. We'll put it up where we can put it up. We'll have several hundred extra copies of the postcard we can distribute around. One thought is, when we do get the billboard done, that's the kind of next step, is to put one of those take one realtor type boxes on a post so people can take the postcard with them and get it out there. And hopefully, we'll get, I'm hoping for a couple hundred comments. We typically get 50 to 80, but we'll compile what comments we get for the special meeting. So I just wanted to take a few minutes, while we're here, to see if there are any additional ideas for what we can do to socialize, drive people to look at the design, and drive more comments.
It's not going to be during a school time that we're going to be holding our public events, will it? Do you think?
Well, we don't have any public events planned because we still can't gather 50 people, right, unless they're all 6 feet apart.
But I mean, school won't be in session, and even then it may be virtual or greatly reduced.
I think it starts the 12th of August, and we're aiming to keep comments open until later August.
Okay, yeah, because I think that's critical to have information passed to parents through the school in one form or another so that we get their comments.
That's a great thought. I know Rick's wife, if she still is the secretary of the PTO for El Granada Elementary. So we can probably have her circulate something for us.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will be on vacation. That's a little bit of the problem. But again, if we use there's actually been a 3,000 to 4,000% increase in remote participation in all of the public agencies across the coast. Montera, they went from 2 people in their office to 50 people. And they had an incredible Zoom meeting where they had 50 people on there. And rather than what Connect the Coast Side doing, which is really horrible, they take us and they break us out so we can't hear each other. I mean, it's really nefarious. But Montera, they really wanted to do a good job. And it was a 4.5-hour meeting. But at the end of it, there's a $558, property tax bill that they're going to get for the rest of their lives all of a sudden during COVID. But after 4.5 hours, Clemens made his case and the finances made their case that they get their water for free, but their infrastructure is not for free. Half Moon Bay, they don't get their water for free. They got to pay hetchy. So the business models are different all up and down the coast. And so just because you're paying something in one water district on the coast, there's a rationalization for it. In 4.5 hours, it was accepted. They came up with a hardship, program for people who really couldn't afford it. There was only 33 people, so it wasn't very many people. And there was a guy online who said, "Hey, I'm rich. I'll pay for them." I mean, that's how the coast side flies when you have that group chat where everybody hears what everybody is saying. I mean, people walked away. They weren't happy, but they understood that, yeah, we've got 13 uplift pumps and 33 grinder pumps, and they're $100,000 a piece. One rag, boom, there's another $80,000 bill. So I think that we can do that here. I think the question is just getting people to come online, either remotely at the time or to respond and comment after when they come back from their vacation. Coastside Buzz can get that back out there, put it out about through social media and stuff like that. And you keep grinding it out like on Nextdoor and Facebook and Instagram. You just keep doing it. But I think we'll have a better success ultimately now because I see the participation actually being greater. Now we're going into deep summer right now where people are just going to go away. Like city council's not having a meeting tomorrow. Because it's summer.
Okay. So you're suggesting, Michelle, that either we are or the board, or maybe in a special meeting, do really try to push more people to come to the meeting and participate in addition to our mail-in comments?
Yeah.
Or to push it into September?
We can do another one. There's no reason why we just have to do one. We could do one now, and you catch that certain number of people that happen to be here that aren't going on vacation, and then you get more people. I mean, the fact that Rick and Paul aren't right here, they're a really big pull. Rick puts out a little note to his people, and then all of a sudden, you got the coastline mountain
60 people show up, yeah.
And as you were saying, his wife's PTO. So I mean, there's a lot of cachet for that.
Okay. So the suggestion.
I wouldn't want to wait to September though. I'd like to start getting feedback now, and let the feedback build. Because I just don't think you're going to get it in one lump sum. When we were doing the beach closures over this last week, I think I had 9 posts out.
So a series of live meetings in addition.
Yeah. I think that's what MCC is going to do for Connect the Coast Side as well. We're going to kind of not hijack the communication system, but kind of sort of. We're going to have the more global Zoom meetings so people can hear each other. And we're going to see what the interaction difference is going to be.
Okay.
Yeah, can I say something?
Go ahead, Fran.
I agree that I think August is too soon. Let's wait till September or October. and
get
get
the board to have a special meeting on their decisions.
Back in the meantime.
Okay, Fran, I'm sorry, I talked over you. You mean August is too soon for the board to make their decisions on the revision?
Yeah, in August, I think that's too soon. So I think we can wait till September or October and in the meantime get comments.
When is the board meeting be the third Thursday in September? Can we have that before that meeting, like a week before that meeting?
Well, what the board is thinking, I mean, they'll have their normal meetings. They're thinking of having a special meeting, maybe mid to late August. And I think at the time, in order to make a decision on what revisions to ask K&K to do to the plan before it's submitted to county. And remember, this is just the first submission. It's more for the building permits and the coastal permit, that review. It's not the full vegetative plan and the playground plan and all of that. It's just the preliminary plan for county review. So I think they were aiming to try to get that in September. So what I'm hearing Fran say is allow a little bit more time for comments coming in before they do that. So I think, Pat, my guess is whatever direction they give to K&K following that special meeting in late October would come back to them for final approval before submission at their September meeting.
Mhm. Again, I'm supportive of September or whenever the school year starts. It can't be the first semester of the school year, but anytime after that.
And say more. I'm not catching any time after that for what?
For this special meeting that is just talking about Burnham Park only.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Any other ideas?
I'm just curious, how important is ADA considerations to the other PAC members?
Very
It's very important to me. And I guess at the board meeting, I heard
good.
Tom say you absolutely won't get it approved without
Correct.
ADA accessibility all through the park, including on the playground. So I agree with you, Pat. It's
Mhm.
every curb,
it's there.
every path, the hard packed paths,
Mhm.
and elements of the playground.
Yes, I agree. We have to do it. There's,
Okay, great.
Add that to the consensus list too.
Nancy,
Yes.
it's Barbara. I just want to say that it's absolutely the NK will make everything that can be ADA accessible.
Okay. Yeah, I thought Tom was clear on that. Okay. I have to finish my sentences or I won't know what I was talking about later. Okay.
We've got it recorded.
Oh, that's right. And yeah, and Pacific as well. I just want to show you one more thing since Rick isn't here, but I asked him to, it's here. When you share your screen, you share everything on your screen. I asked Rick about the pump track and whether things were moving along, just as an update, as long as PAC is here. And he said Coastside Mountain Bikers has been working with them. They've had a few meetings and they're working on a community survey for the design. The landscape architect and designer have been chosen by the county. And so they're working on designing a community feedback session with Coastside Mountain Bikers in an interactive online design meeting. So I was very glad to hear the pump track didn't stop in its tracks in March.
Nancy?
Claudia, wait.
Would you send me a copy of Rick's email so I can get it into the minutes?
Sure.
Okay. And I also have an update on our recreation program when we get to it.
Yep, that's next on the agenda. Barbara, did you have a comment on the pump
Yes,
track?
I was going to say that Nicholas Calderon is going to come and give an update on the pump track at the next board meeting.
Oh, great.
Nice.
Super. Okay, Claudia, over to you.
Was that over to me?
Yes.
Okay, so, well, you know, we don't have too much going on right now with COVID, but I have been working on the children's programs. And I talked with several people, Steve Monowitz, for one, who gave us the blessing to go ahead. I've talked with Nicholas Calderon, and he's given me the permit applications that I need to submit, which I will do. He's not going to charge us any fees. He's waiving all the fees. So right now we have 3 kids workshops, ages 7 to 12. One is a beginning and intermediate rug hooking. The second one is a beginning to intermediate embroidery learning class. And the last one is to design and decorate your own t-shirts. So our Vicki Rudolph, who has been our instructor for the rug hooking, is handling all 3 of those workshops. The first one, the rug hooking, will start on the 14th of July, which is
this coming week, Monday, and will run for 4 days, Tuesday through Thursday from 10 in the morning to 12 at noon. The second one has the same schedule, Tuesday to Friday, the embroidery class 10 to 12, and the same for the t-shirt workshop, 10 to 12, Tuesday through Thursday. So the first one's on 7/14, the second one's on 7/21, and the third is on 7/28 for start dates. We're holding them at the Murata Surf West. The restroom there is open. We've got some picnic benches that we can use for setup. We'll have reusable tablecloths, hand wipes. All the kids have to wear face masks, and we'll have them sitting on blankets so they'll be socially distanced. What else? And, you know, I've got it up on Nextdoor, Eventbrite. I've posted it to our email list. I've posted it to what other place I'm blanking on right now. And, oh, at the post office. And we've already got signups. I mean, you know, the moms in El Granada are really hot on letting their kids get outside and do something before school starts. So I'm really excited. I'll be with the instructor for all the classes as a second hand and assistance. And we're both getting live scan tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah, just,
by the way, there's going to be a live scan at the Half Moon Bay Chamber.
There's going to be when?
Call Crystal, and she either has it now or it's coming soon.
Yeah, well.
And it's because our CERT, we had to like hire a live scan person to come out, and it was really complicated. But she's going to have the actual unit in her office and somebody trained on how to do it. So anybody can go in there at any time. And you don't have to be a chamber member either. She's making it a community service.
Wow.
Claudia, I looked at, I think you updated with the links to
Yes.
right, and I looked at that. I just wanted to let you know the one on the 21st, it just needs a revision. It says the 21st to the 28th instead of the 21st to the 25th. So it looked like it goes Tuesday to Tuesday instead of Tuesday to Friday.
Claudia, if I can make a comment, I applaud you a lot for jumping up and starting back into providing services, even in the COVID time with reasonable safety. As I sent you some information about other San Francisco and other cities are starting to come back with their programs. One, I don't know if you've explored this idea, but one group of people have been particularly hard hit by COVID isolation and stay-at-home orders, and that's our seniors. They're also more susceptible, but they're also more tremendous amount of loneliness and isolation these days. Have you looked into any programs that could be done either virtually or at a very, modest activity level? We see for seniors, we see, on Murata Surf West, often there's a lot of, used to be anyway, a lot of fitness classes that were impromptu. People would just show up to a leader. Could we have something there, a limited size number of people, all the, ultra conservative in terms of COVID precautions, but just something to get people out and to have senior co-siders provide the transportation to it. That combination of providing some sort of transportation, the buses are running, so people are not saying they can't ride in buses, but that's just such a needy part of the population right now. I'd love to see something for them.
I got the email, Pat, and I've been thinking about it. And the only thing that really comes to mind is potentially an outdoor Rosen movement class.
Mhm.
And, if we had the loudspeaker that I was talking about that we could do with our walks, we could do that right on, on the bluff. Easy enough, and, keep it down to maybe 10 or 12 people. And it would not have to be an indoor thing. It could easily be an outdoor, through October.
Right,
So
right.
let me do a little bit of digging on that and see what we can come up with. And if Kate, the instructor that we've used before, Kate O'Shea is willing, we'll see if we can't make it happen.
Okay, great.
Michelle, did you have a comment?
Oh, I was just saying the coastside seniors, they've gone largely remote. They've got a really robust remote program. Yeah, and I know the VOTC, they're doing a lot of remote stuff, and so are the Oddfellows. So I think a lot of people are getting used to the remote stuff. I think a lot of older people aren't going to get on a bus because you're not 6 feet in distancing. The yacht club has not opened. The membership and the board tend to be older, so they're still not open. They're sailing in the Cal 20s because the well is 6 feet apart, but the bar is still not open.
I deliver food at the senior housing every other Monday, and we're just allowed to put the box outside the door, knock on the door, and step back. But there are people who have a hard time lifting the boxes.
Oh, right.
Take things out one at a time. But we used to be able to hand them to them or even bring them in, and then we have to put them down and stand back.
Yeah.
To get them. Yeah, you can see it's the little bit of human interaction they get. So it used to be if I had to leave them because they didn't answer, I'd walk away. Now I knock, I walk away, and they will step out and just, to call after and say thank you and have a little bit of part human interaction. So there is a loneliness issue.
Could we do the walks? Could we do walks? I mean, you're outside, and the latest science for COVID is that the aerosol, in particular, the life outside with natural UV is 7 minutes. 15 minutes, it all goes away. That's the latest. You can Google it.
Yeah, sunlight is good. Claudia, I know you looked into that. The harbor one,
Harbor one was absolutely no way. I haven't gotten a lot of positive feedback from the leaders. I put it out through Barbara and Pat and Matthew, and haven't gotten a whole lot of response, frankly.
They're still, I think, a little leery of getting
people
together.
My point is that seniors and older, I mean, I'm almost 60 myself. I'm a little leery. I'm practicing, 6 feet. And I'm staying outside most of the time. I don't get into close spaces with people.
So,
yeah,
I think we all are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could let it go a little longer.
Yeah.
We're in the second inning.
Right. Yeah, we're not in the second wave. We're in the second inning of the first wave. So, Claudia, any more on that?
Now, the billboard is essentially is going to be exactly the same as the postcard, the same information. Barbara gave me a name of a couple of builders, local builders. I've asked Marty if she would, she actually volunteered to go to the firehouse and to see who built theirs, and to see if we could use the same person, because that would obviously save a little bit in the setup.
I wrote to the person on the coastside fire boards that was listed as the administrative person, but I didn't hear back from her. I think I just wrote to her on Thursday, and it was a holiday weekend. So if I hear anything, I'll send it on.
Okay, great.
Okay, last item is our next meeting. Our next meeting that we had on our schedule was August 3rd, and we stuck this meeting in the middle because of the progress that the park has made. I'm going to suggest that we don't do the August 3rd meeting, but that once the board decides when their special meeting is going to be, that we aim to meet about 10 days before that to review the community feedback, and similar to what we did after the workshop, to see if we can consolidate a PAC view on potential revisions to suggest based on the community feedback. So if they take our suggestion and have the meeting in, later in September, maybe we'll meet in September. So it kind of, I'll leave it open until we see when their meeting is, but does that sound reasonable that we just do it 10 days or so before the board meeting so we can consolidate the community input? Oh, I love your kitty. It's like I had a 19-year-old one who passed away last year who looked very similar.
Aww.
They live a lot longer than me.
I think the timing makes sense, Nancy.
Okay, thank you. I want that kitty. Okay, then we'll leave the next date open. We'll take August 3rd off the schedule because we don't need to meet again that soon. And once the board makes a decision on their special meeting date, I'll be back out to PAC.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Well, then I think I probably should have just said 7 to 9. That's the
You're
PAC.
good.
Thank you for attending, Barbara. I know you don't feel well, but thank you for being here.